Visible, right? So this was the assignment. I had asked you to solve this question using the Streams API. If you would have done your research, if you would have understood how streams work, you would have been able to solve it. If you haven't done it, no issues. You can take it down, go back home today, try it out later. Okay. I'll give you a couple of more assignments on streams and collections. Okay. How you can use streams for various other purposes. So all that we will see. This was the first thing that I had asked you to do. Later, I think this was the last question we solved yesterday, correct? Movie reservation, movie ticket reservation. Correct? So here, I had also asked you for the iterator. Did I mention anything about the iterator? Yes, no? No, right? So I have one assignment for you guys. Here, if you see, we've used the remove if method in this question. Let's quickly revise the question, go through the input and output and come back to the code, analyze what we have done, and then I will proceed ahead with the further task. If you remember yesterday, we had to basically make sure we add the reservations made by a user inside our array list. If in case the seat is already booked, for example, in this particular sample input, if you see, Amit and seat number 5 has already been booked. Next, Neha will book seat number 8. Later, Rahul is trying to book seat number 5. So this is a duplicate booking on the same seat number. This should not happen. We should prevent this. Also, we need to also read the cancellations that happen. So further here, we are seeing that Neha wants to cancel her booking, but she is giving only her name as the input. We had to make sure we cancel this as well, and at the end, display only the ones that have been booked and they are confirmed. So let's just walk through this example to understand what we've done yesterday. So here we had Amit and seat number 5 has been booked. Again, Neha and seat number 8 was booked. Coming back here, we had Rahul and seat number 5. This was a duplicate booking. We should not allow this. And then later, we had one cancellation. This number is representing the number of cancellations that happen. And then we are saying Neha wants to cancel her seat. So if Neha will cancel her seat, we had only Amit with the seat number 5, which was booked. So we had to display this. This was the problem statement. We had completed the code here. Here we've handled the creation of the array list. To create the array list, basically we had to store both the username who's booking it and the seat number to which seat number the booking is being made. So that is the reason we had to create our own custom class. We've named it as booking or maybe movie in yesterday's code, whatever you've written. We have two attributes to it. One is the name and the other one is the seat number. The name is of type string. The seat number is of type integer. And later we also have one constructor here to create the object of the booking class. Firstly, we've created an array list of this booking class. Later, we read the input from the user to read the number of bookings that the user is going to make. Here we have a loop, a for loop, basically to add the booking into our array list. But before we add the booking, we also have one check where we see if the seat number is already present in our array list. We need to make sure we don't book it again. We don't add it to our array list. To achieve this, what we've done was we had created a Boolean variable Maybe we've named it is booked and initially assigned it to false. Later on, we loop through the bookings array list. We are checking if the seat number that the user is entering, see this, Rahul and 5, whatever user will enter, that firstly we are storing it in a variable, correct? Name, we are using the name variable to store the name. Similarly, we are using the seat variable to store the seat number. We are comparing if this particular value present in the variable seat is already there in my bookings array list. To do this, we say b dot seat number. See, b is representing the booking object, correct? We've used an enhanced for loop here, or your for each loop, to iterate through the bookings. And then if in case we find a match that yes, the seat number is already present, we set this variable called is booked to true, and then we break out of it. If this variable is set to true, that means that seat number is already booked and we don't have to add this particular booking to the seat number. This is what we had to code out. For this reason, we have told if is booking is true. If it is true, it means that already it is there. So that is the reason we have taken not of is booked to make sure it is false only. Correct? So ideally speaking, if it is a new entry or a new seat number that has not been booked, the variable is booked will remain false itself. If it is false, so we need to make sure we add it to the inventory, or your array list, correct? To add it to the array list, that is the reason we've used a not operator to make sure this condition executes and we add it. Correct? We've created an object of the booking class. We've given the name and seat number to it. And then we've used the add method of your array list to add it to the booking. This is how we have handled the duplicate insertion part to prevent duplicate bookings. Is this clear? Clear, right? Later on, we've told we need to write the code or logic for cancellations. We need to write the code for cancellations. To write the code for cancellations, firstly, what we've done here is we've read the number of cancellations that will take place are correct. We've iterated r times. We wrote a loop that runs from 0 to I less than r for the particular username, whichever user is entering. We've stored it in a variable called name, and we've used the remove if method and passed in one lambda here, correct? We've told if b dot name dot equals this name that the user has entered, then we can remove it from the list. That is what the statement is doing, correct? This is what you guys have coded out yesterday to cancel the bookings, and at the end we are just printing it in the respective format, that is maybe add the hyphen and the seat number. This was yesterday's code. You guys have completed the code or written the logic using the remove if method. Any confusion here? No, right? The assignment that I would like you to do is try this out using the iterator. Iterator is another class in Java, okay, which is used to iterate over your collections, iterate or traverse through your collections. I will give you one requirement of this class, why we need this class, okay? You guys can do your research and try to implement this and then try to code the solution out. See, if I want to maybe comment this part out and then maybe do it without the iterator, let's see how to do it, how I would have done it. Firstly, I'll say I'll have a for loop. I'll maybe loop through it from 0 to I less than R times. I have read the user's input, the username, whichever user is entering. I'll store it in a variable called name. From here, if I want to perform the removal of this particular booking for the user, one way I can do it is maybe similar to what you've done here. You can add the same for each loop here. For booking B in the bookings array list, if in case not the seat number, but rather the name, correct? B dot, correct? Absolutely correct. What are you telling? If your B dot name is equal to the name, correct, given by the user, you could have just told B bookings dot remove B. Can I do this? Is this logically correct at least? See, booking B is representing the object, booking object, correct? It is stored in the variable B. What I have done here, I am reading the user input. Say for this particular case, Neha, it is, user is entering Neha. I am storing this value inside the variable called name, string name, correct? Later, I have another for each loop or your enhanced for loop where I'm iterating through the bookings array list, correct? How can I iterate through the bookings array list? I can do it this way. I can say bookings B inside the bookings array list. I am performing an if check here. If my B dot name dot equals, correct? For that particular booking object, if the name is equal to the name entered by the user, I can just say bookings dot remove B. B is representing the object itself, correct? Is this logically correct? Is the code correct, guys? Online students say yes, no. Any confusion? Are you following? We could have done this also, right? Instead of using the remove if method. Ideally, this should work. Can we run this? Okay, yes, Aman is saying yes, we can run this. So let's run this. Firstly, see what happens. See, we have one test case is failing. It is throwing a runtime error. Let's have a look at the error. Okay, read the error. The error is happening on line number 47. Okay, where is 47? This is the line where the error is happening. If you read the actual exception, it is telling concurrent modification exception. Concurrent modification exception. Let's break this and understand what this actually means. Okay. So you're iterating through the array list. As and when you're iterating, you are also performing a removal. Correct? You're also removing as and when you're iterating it. Don't you think concurrently you're doing both the operations? You're iterating also through the list. As and when you're iterating, you're removing it also. Think of it like this. Maybe when you're iterating, you're crossing the bridge. You're going step by step over the bridge. Inside, you're removing. So when you're removing, don't you think you're destroying the bridge or breaking the bridge as well? That is the reason Java is throwing this exception called concurrent modification exception. So you are not allowed to perform removal or modification operations on your array list as and when you're traversing through it. This cannot be achieved using your for loop or your enhanced for loop. That is the reason your iterator comes into picture. You can perform this exact same thing, whatever we are doing. As and when you're iterating through the list, you can modify it. But you cannot do it using your for loop or your for each loop. That is where you guys have to use your iterator. Okay. So please try this out. Try to achieve the removal part using the iterator. This is the assignment. Iterator is another class in Java. It is basically used to traverse through your collections. Any of the collections, your collections can be list, your deck, your set, your map, your tree. Any of the collections, you can use iterator to traverse it. As and when you're traversing your collection using your iterator, you can modify it, maybe add, maybe remove, correct? Maybe change values. All these things you can do. Very, very important with respect to your interview. I cannot stress this enough. Very famous questions in your technical interviews. What happens is, your first question will be, can you tell me all the ways that you can iterate or traverse through your collections? You guys will tell your for loop with the iterative way, that is, you'll use a variable for the indexes, and then maybe you can use the collections.get method and pass the index value to get the respective index and iterate it or traverse through it. This is one way. The other way, you will tell, we can also traverse it using the for each or your enhanced for loop. Then your interviewer will tell, are there only two ways to traverse it? You guys have to tell, no, there is another way. You can also traverse a collection using your iterator as well. You can create an object of the iterator and use the respective methods the iterator is offering to traverse through your collections. Okay, the interviewer will tell, okay, good, you can traverse through the iterator as well. What is the advantage you are getting if you have to traverse the collection using the iterator? What is the difference, or what is the advantage or the use case scenario when you would use an iterator? This is how questions will be asked with respect to your interviews, correct? So make sure you not only solve this question using the iterator just for getting the output, but also know the advantages of the iterator, the use case when you have to use it, why you have to use it, okay, what is the benefit. So please try to solve it in this particular perspective. This was about it. This was about the iterators class. So I think we've solved about 10 questions on the array list. You guys can continue ahead and do the rest. Not now, not here. Maybe in your free time after you've completed the classes and go home. We will continue ahead by solving some array deck questions on the collections. It is present in your practice only. You guys can come back to the practice part here. You have collections on your array deck. Let's start off with this. Before we actually read the question and dive into the approach and the solution, firstly, can you tell me what is a deck or your array deck collection used for? This has been done in class, right? Firstly. Yeah, can someone tell me the way this data structure behaves, this collection is used? Puneet sir has explained it, right? Online students, can you tell me? When would you use your array deck? Any use case in your real world? When we have to insert on both the sides, on the front or on the end. or basically at the start or at the end. So what is has sir explained even the time complexities, anything? No, is it? Okay, so basically this particular collections called array deck is used for insertions at the front and insertions at the rear end. You call it the front end and the rear end, correct? So let's have a look at the first problem on your array decks. Understand the problem. Have a look at the comments or the boilerplate, what it is telling us to do, discuss the approach, and then code out the solution. Fine. So here they're telling add element at the beginning of the deck. Sakshi is practicing using a deck or double-ended queue. That is the reason you call it deck, double-ended queue in Java, and wants to learn how to add elements at the beginning of a deck. In a deck, you can insert or remove elements from both front and the rear. Sakshi needs a program that will allow her to add several elements at the beginning of the deck and then display the resulting deck. Okay? Your task is to help Sakshi by creating a program that will read a list of elements, insert each element at the beginning of the deck, print the final deck in the correct order from front to rear. Okay? Let's see one example to understand the question more clearly. Here we have 4 elements that have been given to us, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The program should add these elements in the front of the deck one by one, resulting in the order 4, 3, 2, and 1. So you will add 1 to your deck, to your empty deck. Initially, your deck will be empty. When you add 1, it will be like this. Later, when you add 2, you're adding 2 to the front of the deck. So now your deck will become 2 and 1. Later, you're adding 3. It is becoming 3, 2, and 1. Likewise, when you add 4, it becomes 4, 3, 2, and 1. So your task is you need to add elements to the front of the deck and you need to print the resulting deck from front to rear. See, also, I think we've been given some methods here. We have a method called add first, adds an element to the front of the deck, and maybe we can use the for each that prints the elements of the deck in a sequence. So this is the input format, sample input and the output. So here we can see that this particular deck is having characters, correct? It is not having integers inside it. The data type that this particular deck is storing is characters A, B, C, and D. So if you add A, B, C, and D to the front of the deck every time, your expected output should be D, C, B, and A. Firstly, is this question's requirement clear? Any doubts? No, right? So let's firstly see how this happens. So they're telling A, B, C, and D will be inserted. So if A, B, C, and D is inserted, so firstly A comes here. Don't you think you'll have pointers, maybe front and end, which are pointing to A initially? Later on, when you add the next character B, so your B has to get added to the front, correct? Similarly, again, when you want to add the next character to the front, C will get added. Similarly, when you want to add the next character at the front, D gets added. Now your end will be pointing to A. This is what is internally happening inside your deck. Okay, so let's discuss the approach here. See how we can code this out, then code the solution and then proceed ahead. See, this is the first question of your deck. That is the reason I'm taking it a little slow. Okay. Once we solve a couple of problems, we'll go a little faster. Okay. So firstly, tell me, how can we create an array deck? We just have to say array deck. What is the data type we have to use? String, character. Character is fine. Okay. Character. Maybe I'll call it Q. Perfect. I think online students. Aman, yes, I saw your chat now. Fine. Super. Web browser history. Are you sure? Okay, after we've created our array deck, we also need an object of the scanner class to read the user's input. So let's say scanner scan equal to new scanner system dot in. We've created an object of the scanner class. We need to read the number of elements that the user wants to add. To read this, we can say scan.nextInt. Aman, okay, so you're telling your history. Do your research on this and tell me if it is actually a queue or a stack that is being used. See, I would like tell a better example, better real life example for the queues where you have to use in real life. Okay. So if you give this answer, the interviewer will be actually impressed. So we have one concept called messaging service, or to be more specific, it is called JMS, Java Messaging Service. Okay. So you guys would have heard of this monolithic architecture, microservice architecture and all. So in the microservice architecture world, where each application is an independent service, they have to communicate with each other, correct? Don't you think they have to make calls to each other, send requests, get the response? So in this particular microservice architecture, this concept called JMS will be used. JMS is nothing but your Java messaging service. All your queue service like your Apache, correct? Kafka, all of these come into picture. RabbitMQ. So again, RabbitMQ is nothing but Rabbit messaging queue. So it is a type of messaging queue itself, queue, messaging queue. So what happens here is one service, when it has to talk to the other service, it has to send a request. Don't you think the request has to follow an order? So wherever it has to follow a specific order, right? One after the other, their queues data structure will be used internally. So this is one very good real world example where you can tell to your interviewers in your technical interview, if he asks, where do you think queues are being used in real life? You can tell messaging queues in the microservice architecture world, queue data structure will be used to keep track of the service requests coming. Okay. This is how you can do it. Okay, now coming back to the code here, we have int n equal to scan next int to read the number of elements that the user is going to add. Later, we need to add elements to the front end of the queue. Can you tell me how we can do this? We can have a loop, correct? For loop. I can say int I equal to 0, int I less than n, I plus. How do I add elements now? This is the queue. Do we have any method? Q dot, little loud. I have some hearing problem. My doctor told that. At first, yes. You guys can shout, right? Why you guys are very silent? I'm very cool and chill only. You guys can shout at me. It's fine. You can tell add first, sir. What do you think I have to add here? The character that the user is entering, correct? So how do I read the character? Scan.text is fine, is it? Okay. So after I've added my elements to the queue, how can I print them? Okay, Ram is telling offer first is also there. Likita has also shared her code snippet. Perfect. So maybe if you have to use a for each loop, you can tell character ch present inside your queue. You just have to print the elements. System.out.print. How do we have to print them? We have to separate them by a space, is it? Let's run this. Okay. So you guys told next, but next is not working. How do we fix this? If we are reading a character, what do we have to do? How can we read a character? Char of 0. Let's run this. It is working. So you can read a character input from the user by saying scan.next.caret of 0. This is one way of doing it, correct? If you would have maybe used a string here, then that is also fine. No issue, no constraints. Please submit the code, see if it works for if it passes all the test cases. It is not passing all the test cases. Why? Let's have a look. So you have hello world here as the input. Again, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Correct? We have alpha, beta, gamma, and our code is only giving the first characters. So let's do one thing. We have to change it back to string, correct? See, the reason I went with character is I could see only characters in both the sample inputs, X, Y, Z, and A, B, C, D. That's why I went with characters, but it is fine. We can change it back to next. Here also, I need to change it to a string. Let's run it, submit the code. Yes, all the test cases are passing. Is this clear? Any doubts with this question? No, right? I'll do one thing like yesterday. I'll also have one Firepad link to share the solution. Why is it telling no internet? What is this magic? The application is working, but this is not working. Okay, I think some issue with Firepat. I'm not able to share you the link, but online students, I'll find a way. I'll give you the code. That is fine. Let's go ahead with the next question. I think the next question was creating and displaying an array deck using add last. So again, if you see here, the boilerplate has done most of the thing for you. Let's read the question firstly, understand, discuss the approach, and then go ahead and solve the question. Rohan is organizing his book collection. He wants to store the titles of the books in the order he adds them to his collection. Okay, let me repeat this again. He wants to store the titles of the books in the order he adds them to his collection. Once he has added all the book titles, he wants to display the entire collection in the same order. You need to help Rohan in writing the program that adds book titles to an array deck using only the add last method and then displays the entire collection in the order the titles were added. So let's see this with an example. So he wants to add 3 books. One is Java Basics, Data Structures, and Algorithms. So my task or our task here is to use the add last method of the deck, display the book titles in the order they were added. So if you see here, this is our sample input. The first line represents the number of books. Then we have n number of lines, n consecutive lines representing the book. We have Java Basics, we have data structures and algorithms. We have to output Java Basics, data structures, and algorithms as the output. Pretty straightforward question. No rocket science in this. But only change here is you need to make sure how you can read the user input here. If you actually pay attention, you just can't use the next method because space separated values need to be considered as a single line here, correct? Data structures is 2 words, but has been given as 1 book. So I think in the boilerplate, we've already handled it. We've already created. Okay, so scanner class has been created for us. The size of the input has been given. We need to create the deck. Okay, after we've created the deck, the adding part also has been done for us. We just have to create the deck and write the code for displaying the titles. Okay. So how do you create the deck? Maybe you can say array deck. What is the name you have to use for the deck? Data type is string. Name, what is the reference variable that you will give? Can I say book collection? So book collection has been used here. That is the reason. Let's use the same. You just have to say array deck. You've created the array deck. Then later you have to print it. How do you print it? You need to make sure you print it in separate lines. So again, maybe we can make use of the for each loop. Maybe I can say string book inside our book collection. I just have to print system.out.print ln. Why ln? I want it to print in the next line after every iteration, correct? Perfect, Likita. Let's run the code. Yes, the 2 test cases are passing. Let's submit this. Okay, all the test cases are working fine. I see some comments. Okay, Ria is given the link of Puneet sir's. Okay, fine. So if I actually paste it in this link, right, his notes and my class notes will get mixed. That is the reason I don't want to do it here, but okay, fine, I'll have it anyway. If you guys need the solution for anything, I'll paste it here. That's fine. So is this clear? This problem also clear, right? We've understood, we've completed it. Can we go ahead? online students? I think, yeah, anyway, tomorrow Puneet sir will be coming and taking the class, so no issues. So the next question, removing all even elements from a deck. Removing all even elements from a deck. I think this question actually has the iterator being used here. Okay. Firstly, read the problem, spend some time on it, understand what you have to do. Try to do it. Let's firstly discuss the approach and then do it. If we face any issue with the approach that we've used, then we'll proceed ahead and use the iterators class here to complete the question. But anyway, iterator is still your assignment. You have to go back and do your research on this. We can use it here and then proceed ahead. That is not going to be an issue here. See, one thing I would like to highlight here, whenever we learn any new concept, right? We see any new code or new class or new method being used. This is how it will be in your work as well. 99% of the times, whenever you see a new code, new piece of code, people would have used new objects, new classes, new inbuilt methods. You would have never used it previously. As soon as you see this new method, class, or object, or whatever it is, you will start getting intimidated, full scared. You will panic only. You will be like, over, this is like impossible. I'm not understanding anything. This is like Greek and Latin. I'll not be able to do it. Please, my dear students, don't be in this mindset. You already know how things work in Java, correct? You know how objects are created, what happens in the memory, how you can use the methods of a class. You've also used inbuilt methods, correct? So you are well aware with the full structure of how a Java program is built and how the code flow is going on. If you have a respective task, you have to write the code to get the task, correct? To solve the task or to complete the task. What you will do, you will maybe prefer to use your inbuilt methods to help you with the task, correct? Or maybe create custom classes, have your custom methods to complete the task. You will make use of these things, right? To help you complete the task or your functionality and go ahead with the code. That is what is happening in your Java. Wherever you see something new, think of it like a blocker. You hit a blocker or a dead end. You need to make sure you clear this dead end, or you cross the dead end. To cross the dead end, you need to make use of some tools. Maybe a ladder, maybe an elevator, maybe an escalator. Maybe someone will throw you from here to the other end. It doesn't matter. The end goal of your problem here is you need to find a working solution. The code what you have written should work and get the job done. See, again, later all the other parameters come in, whereas your time complexity, space complexity, and all of those, to such extent where you need to optimize your code to make sure it runs in the most fastest way possible, correct? Say, for example, let me give you a way, okay? Think of maybe your Instagram accounts. All of you have Instagram accounts. Don't you think your details of your login credentials, all of these, your email, password, has been stored in the database somewhere in the Instagram server? So if Instagram would have written the logic in such a way that maybe if you have to log in, right, it had to iterate through every individual's credentials to match your particular email and then match your particular password and then, okay, tell yes, it is equal and then allow you to log in. Do you think you would have used Instagram? No, right? How many millions and billions of users are using it? If you hit login, it would have taken maybe 1 day, 2 days just to verify, correct? Doesn't matter if you keep a supercomputer in the background, it will still take time to calculate and process. That is the reason where your time complexity will come into picture at the later point in your time. But for now, you guys should be in a mindset that if you're seeing something new, look at it like a new tool. You all are like mechanics in a garage. Okay. Car has come to you, car has some problem. So to repair it, you need to remove the nut and check the nut, check the problem, check the engine. Okay. To remove the nut, whatever spanners you have with you, right? It is not fitting for that particular nut. What will you do? You will use a different spanner of the respective size. Correct? That different spanner is nothing but the class or the object that you've never seen, that the method you've never implemented. That is all in your entire programming structure. That is how things work. Please don't get intimidated. Don't get panicked that I don't know this. I've never used this at all. This is how you have to adapt yourself to changes. If you're seeing anything for the first time, okay, this is a new spanner. Think of it like this. This spanner has some requirements. Maybe requirements meaning this spanner has to work only if you're wearing gloves. If you don't wear gloves, all grease will get stuck to your hand. Think of it like that. So your methods will take in parameters, right? You know what parameters it will take, what will the return type be. All these basics you already are familiar. So whenever you are applying it or seeing it in code, this perspective should come into your mind. Okay, this is nothing new to me. This is just a never seen class or a never seen spanner that I'm going to use to get the job done. Okay, this should be the approach. Now coming back to the question, let's read the question, analyze it, see how we can do it without the iterator first, even if it is possible. And then maybe if we hit any dead end, we'll come back and apply the iterator class and complete the solution. Online students, anyone completed this? Don't tell now, sir. You're giving too much gyan, sir. You're giving too much story. See, Ram, all this is a part of your assignment. That is the reason I've told it. Getting exception, sir, when we remove, okay. So I think many of you are getting errors, correct? Exceptions. Were you able to complete it? See, one hint I will give. You can try the remove if method. Online students, you can try the remove if method first. Okay, Uni Krishnan has got it with the iterator. Perfect. Gunjana, you can try it with remove if method first. So let's come back the code. We have to create an array deck. What is the data type? Array deck of numbers, is it? Can I say integers? I'll call it maybe deck. Deck is the name that's been used here. So the hint I gave was you can use the remove if method. Anyone completed it with the remove if? Were you able to get it, ma'am? Here, boys, anyone? This remove if method we've already seen, right, in that movie reservation. I can just pass one lambda expression here. And then I have to just print the values. Let's see if this works. Here we have one typo here. It is integer, not integers. Also, we need to say deck dot remove. Did you all get the output using the remove method? Okay, we'll also see the iterative method using the iterator. See, this is the first line of the iterator's approach. What we are doing is, let me break this code into parts, okay, so that you understand this better. See, iterator is an inbuilt class, okay? So you have to say iterator, and then you need to pass the data type inside. So here, we are trying to iterate through integers, correct? See, this particular array deck is having integer as the data type inside. So we need to also create an iterator of the same data type. We can give it a name. Iterator is the name that is usually given, iterator or IT or ITR, this is the name. So equal to, you can say deck. Deck is the collection. This is not specific to only decks. You can use an array list, you can use a map, you can use any other collection, you can use a set, you can use a tree. It will work for any other collection as well. In this case, our collection is deck. So we can just say deck dot iterator. Okay. This is how you create an iterator, an object of the iterator. This is the first step. After you've done this, you have to loop using a while loop here. You have to use the while loop to loop through the iterator's object. So you have to say iterator dot, this particular iterator will have a method called has next. Okay, this is the thing you have to use. If it is having next, it will keep on iterating. This is the condition that goes inside your while loop. Okay, you cannot do it in any other way. You have to do it by using the has next method to iterate over your collections using the iterator. Now, as and when you're iterating, you have to say what is the condition that you need to add here. Let's come back to the logic of the code here. So basically, they're telling we need to remove. What do we need to remove? We need to remove even numbers, correct, from the list. So what is the condition you can say for removing an even number? If number, right? We need the actual value. See, this iterator object will give you a number that you need to collect it somewhere. So for that, can we create a variable called maybe number equal to iterator dot next? This will give you the value of the current object that the iterator is iterating through, current object or current value. In this particular case, say for your deck of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you have created an object of the iterator. You've told iterator dot has next to keep on looping through from the start to the end of the deck. To read or to get the value, you have to say iterator dot next. This will give you the value. You can collect it in a variable. This is more cleaner way of doing it. You can say if number percentage to equal to 0 to represent an even number, you can just say remove, correct? What do you have to remove? You have to say iterator dot remove that particular object that you've iterated. So it will come from here. It is starting from 1. It is checking if this value 1 that has been collected in the variable number is divisible by 2. Is it divisible by 2? 1 is not divisible by 2. That's why this condition never gets executed. In the next iteration, what happens? 2 will be the value of your iterator dot next, correct? The number 2 is collected in the variable. Now we are checking if this number is divisible by 2. Yes, it is divisible by 2. If it is divisible by 2, then you are telling iterator dot remove that particular object itself. You're removing it off. See, if you pay one close attention here, you're not calling the remove method on the deck. You have linked this iterator to the deck. You're basically providing access to the iterator to access your deck. That is the reason you have to say iterator dot remove. You're not saying deck dot remove, rather iterator dot remove. This is how you can remove elements from a collection as and when you're traversing through it using the iterator. Let's run this, see if any errors are there, fix it if in case. No errors, both the test cases are working fine. Let's submit the code. All the test cases are working. Please, one request here, don't get scared by looking at the syntax here. As and when you type it out, you analyze it, you will get used to it, you will learn it. So you've just created the iterator. Let me add comments here to make it more clear what we've done. I'm just explaining or walking you through the code snippet or the syntax here. You guys have to still do the research to understand why, what, all of these things. Create an iterator. This is how you create an iterator. later to loop through the iterator, or can I say basically traverse is a better word here. Traverse through the collection. See, I'm using the word collection here. It can be anything. It can be your array list. It can be your array deck. In this particular case, it is array deck. That is the reason in brackets I would have told I'm mentioning array deck. To traverse through the collection, specific collection, you have to say iterator dot has next. Okay. So I'll say you have to use has next method. Later, to get the value of that particular iteration, you have to use gets the value of the iteration. So this line here gets dot next is getting the value of the iteration itself. Here, iterator dot remove removes the value from the collection. So this is how you create an iterator. This is how you traverse through the iterator using has next. Similarly, to get the value, you have to say iterator dot next and iterator dot remove to basically remove the value from the respective collection. Again, in this particular case, it is array deck. I hope this approach is completely clear. Online students, offline, please let me know if you have any doubts with this approach, with the syntax. Clear, right? Can we go ahead? Have you all got the output? Perfect. So adding multiple elements to an array deck using add all method. So let's do this a little faster. So I think we can directly skip to the sample input and output to understand what is the requirement and see if we can complete it. So we have two lines of input. Basically, the first line will represent the number of elements. The second line represents space separated n values. Maybe if you've told 5 in the first line, you have 5 space separated values in the second line. Here in this particular example, we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. All you have to do is just print 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Similarly, here also 3 is the number of elements. 10, 100, 200, 300 are the actual elements. You have to make sure you print 100, 200 and 300 as the output. You need to make use of the add all method here. I think in the boilerplate we have given add here. Let me tell you what is exactly happening here. So basically, what happens is most of the times, right, you have to, convert data from one data type into another data type. Basically, I think like typecasting, right? Typecasting, you would have done it for your primitive data types. Here, what is happening? You will have an array list, okay? It has values inside it, but your array list is not a very suitable collection for a task that you're performing. You have to maybe have the same set of values inside your deck or maybe inside your stack or inside your set. You have to get the values and put it inside this new collection from one type to another type. That is what most of the times you will have to be doing it in your work when you go, correct? So this is one similar scenario where you've been given one array list of the type integer. Already user has entered values. You've stored values inside it. Now later, you have to add all these values inside this array deck. This is the task. And later, you have to print the values of the array deck. This is the task. Is the task clear? I think just by reading the input and output, it will not be that clear. This is the actual expectation of the program or the problem here. Can you please try this out? Okay, Isha, Likita, you guys have already completed it, is it? Perfect. Others, what are others doing? No one else is responding, is it? Only Isha, Likita, Ram, only these guys. Srivalli, okay. Gunjana. So this is the problem statement. I hope it is clear. So please spend some time. Think firstly what you have to do, and then later code it out. Very easy code it is. Actually, it has a couple of lines of code that you have to do. They've clearly told you just have to use the add all method. So this method allows you to add data from one collection to another collection. And then you just have to print it out. Okay, Preeti. Preeti's also done it. Perfect. Preeti, what have you sent? You've not? Okay, you've done it. Okay, perfect. So shall we complete this? Shall we see how to do it? We just have to say deck dot add all and then pass in our list here and then maybe just print our deck. This is all we have to do. Only 2 lines of code. Let's run the code. Yes, it's working. Submit it. All the test cases are passing. Any doubts with this? No, right? Can we proceed ahead to the next one? Okay, we have the clear method. Please read this question. I think this is also very straightforward question. Just to make sure you are aware of all the methods in your collections. Clear, add all, remove if. All these questions have been created with that objective. Please read it, try it out. Let me know if you've completed it. You can share the outputs in the chat, online students. Offline students, you can let me know if you have done this. Preeti, Isha. Preeti has completed this. Okay. Likita, Anjali, Pragati. Okay, cool. Let's complete this. Go ahead with the next one. So all we have to do is firstly create a array deck. So how do we clear this? Just have to say deck dot clear, and then if you observe, they're telling you have to print 0. So once you've cleared it, your deck size will be 0. So you can either do it by saying print 0. This will also work. 1 second. Sorry. String. This will also work. Otherwise, you can also say deck dot size as well. Both will work. Can submit it. Can go ahead to the next question. You just have to check for the contains method. Use the contains method. Again, I think very similar task here. Firstly, you'll be given a number representing all the tasks: complete assignment, attend meeting, submit report, check emails. After the 4 lines or the 4 tasks have been read, the user will give you another task. You have to just check and return if this particular task is present in the deck or not. You should return true if it is present. If it is not present, you have to return false. Print false. This is the task. See, let's do this as well. Here we just have to create an array deck. Again of type string. Maybe I'll call it deck. You can just directly say system dot out dot print deck dot contains task to check. Correct? This is what you need to do. Let's run this, see if it works. It's working. Can we go ahead to the next one, guys? Clear? Clear and the contains method, both of them we've completed. Next one is empty. We need to make use of the isEmpty method. So let's read this. So basically they are telling you are maintaining a queue of customers waiting to be served in a shop. After serving all the customers, you need to check if the queue is empty using the isEmpty method. Okay, perfect, Likita. Okay, Rohit is telling task manager using poll size clear. Program will run without using clear method, sir. Okay. So here they're telling that your task is read the list of customer names into the array deck. Okay. After we've read it, remove all customers from the array deck. Okay. And then use the isEmpty method to check if the deck is empty. So let's do this. Firstly, say array deck of names, right? To store names, I think we can go ahead with string. We'll name it as deck, new array deck. All the elements or the customers have been added. Now to remove, we can either use deck.clear, correct? I'll say deck.clear. After that, I have to just print if it is empty. I can say system.out.print deck.is empty. Let's run this, see if it works. Superb, Pragati. Keep going ahead, keep going ahead. All of you, if you've done it, online students, Pragati, Likita, all of you. If you're able to complete, send me the code and then you can proceed to the next question. Don't wait for me. Next one is speak. What does this speak method return? The element at the front or at the element at the back? Front, is it? Okay, cool. So let's complete this code as well. Very straightforward. So you have a queue that has already been created. Peek at the first. So this is what you need to do. So can I say system dot out dot print deck dot peek? Can I do this? Let's run the code, see if it is working. Yes, it's working absolutely fine. Let's proceed ahead to the next one. Okay, Rohit, you're asking about this, is it? Task manager using poll, size, and clear program will run without using clear method, sir. Is it? Okay, let's see if it works. Let's directly come to this part. Read the tasks into an array deck. Process each task using poll method. Okay. After you've done this, poll is nothing but removes tasks from the front of the queue. After processing all the tasks, print the size of the deck. Clear the queue using the clear method and print the size of the deck again. Oh, okay, Rohit. I think, yeah, whatever you're telling is correct. You don't need to use the clear because after you've polled it, the size will be empty. You don't have to use the clear method to clear it. Okay, perfect. You can say array deck, string is it, and name it task deck, task queue here, sorry. You can say array deck of, you've added it here. Now to poll, how can you poll it? Loop, is it? Did you loop and then poll it? Okay. I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, task queue dot poll. You've polled it. After you've polled it, here they're telling print the size of the queue. Clear the queue and then again print. So I think you can just print the queue twice. But since they have told us in the code to use the clear method, let's use it. Make sure to use println because you have to print it in two separate lines. You can just say dot size and then They've told you to clear it. Let's clear it. And then again, print the size. Let's run this. Yes, it is working. Submit the code. Go ahead with the next one. Task queue manager 2 using poll, size, and clear. Please try this out as well. Online students, have you completed this? Correct, Rohit. Whatever you're telling is correct. Yes, Rohit, no need. The Likita is in which method? What do we have to do here? Again, similar is it? Adding a task, processing a task, checking queue size, clearing the queue. So guys, before actually coding this out, can you tell me the approach for this firstly? How do we solve this? See, this is actually a question on priority queue, not on array deck. Okay. So please don't use array deck. Use your priority queue. Maybe you can just say tar. This is the first thing I would like to highlight here. This question is on priority queue. It is not on array deck. Online students, please don't get confused. Super Sri Durga, Chitradeep. Spend some time on this. Read the question, understand. Don't code it out as soon as you finish reading the question. Understand the task correctly. This is a little medium to hard level problem. You need to apply some logic to it. Okay. Firstly, make the corrections that I've done here. So this is not queue deck, but priority queue. Make this changes to the code. Follow these comments for reference. So the question is actually telling Arjun is developing a task management application for a project team. The application needs to manage tasks with different priorities. Higher priority tasks should be completed first, and tasks with same priority should be handled based on their order of arrival. Okay. Say for example, I give you two tasks. Both the task has the same priority. Priority is 10 and 10. But I give task 1 first and then the second task later. You have to first complete the task 1 and then the task 2. Correct? This is what the question is telling. Please pay attention to this. I'll read this again. The application needs to manage tasks with different priorities. Higher priority tasks should be completed first. Tasks with same priority should be handled based on their order of arrival. To achieve this, Arjun decides to use a priority queue in Java. The tasks will be represented as strings with an associated priority. He wants to manage these tasks effectively. So what all operations we need to do? Let us have a look. Firstly, we need to add a task. So add a new task with its associated priority to the queue. Later, processing a task. Remove and return the highest priority task from the queue. Check queue size, display the number of tasks currently in the queue. Later, remove all the tasks from the queue. This is the requirement. For better understanding, let's have a look at the input and the sample output. So initially, this 3 represents, what does it represent? The number of tasks to be added. See, the first line 3 is representing the number of tasks to be added. So later, next n lines contain a string task followed by a integer priority. You have task 1. This is the task name itself. Please don't get confused. Task 1 is the name of the task. Its priority is 5. The next task that has been given is task 2 and its priority is 2. Similarly, the last task is task number 3 and the priority is 8. Task 3 has the highest priority. You can see here, correct? So let's see what the expected output is telling us. The expected output is telling processing task. This is the way you have to print it. Processing task, task 3 with priority 8. Okay. You have processed this task. See, that's what they're telling. Processing a task, remove and return the highest priority task from the queue. Which is the highest priority task here in this particular case? Task number 3 with priority 8. You've processed it. After processing, you have to basically remove it, correct? This is completed. After this has been completed, which is the next task with the highest priority in the queue? Task number 1 with priority 5. After you've processed this, printed this, and removed this from the queue, you are left with the last task in the queue that is having priority 2. You will print that as well. After you've completed this, you will tell tasks left in the queue is 0. And then you will also print all tasks cleared from the queue. This is the expected output. So see, break this problem statement into steps or subtasks basically. I've given the comments here. Do it in this stage. Firstly, they are telling create a priority queue with reverse order, higher priority first. How can you create a priority queue? Can you first tell me? Firstly, tell me how to create a priority queue, and then later we can go ahead. Is priority queue completed? Firstly, yes, right? Okay, perfect. Online students, what happened? No one is sending the output now. All are stuck, is it? Sir, can you show the first and second question answers? Chitradeep, for which first and second question? Of array deck, is it? Of these two, is it? Add element and creating and displaying an array deck? Okay, now let's come back. Okay. Chitradeep, I'll give that. Please wait, we'll complete this and give it. I'll give it. So yeah, tell me how to create a priority queue. Leave the reverse order part. Just create a normal priority queue. Can you tell me how? Guys, please respond. Nobody. Okay. What is the data type of this priority queue? Perfect task. The data type should be task. Task is having two things. One is the task description or task name, and it is also having a priority. If you also see, we have get description and get priority. We have two methods to retrieve the values as well. Okay. So now array, tell me, please tell me. Priority queue, how do I create? Can I say priority queue of task? Is this correct? Can I call it PQ? Equal to new. Huh? Okay, task queue. Okay, fine. Task queue is fine. New priority queue. If I create my queue like this, what do you think the default order will be here? Or default behavior of this priority queue? Say if I'm adding numbers maybe 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 inside this queue. And then if I want to poll, if I say queue.poll, what will the element that comes out? What is this? All of you have gone completely blank. Okay, we'll do one thing. I think this question is a little hard for you guys to understand. We'll go back to some easy level questions of the priority queue and then come back to this. Fine? Okay. Okay, cool. Come back to your practice. Go back to your collections. Where's your collections? That question should have come here. By mistake, it has come off there, but that is fine. Not an issue. So online students, please follow. Please follow. What we've done is we've taken a detour now. We've come back to the collections of priority queue. Okay. We'll solve a couple of easy questions here and then go back to that one. So you guys will be able to bridge the gap between that question. Can you tell me what we have to do in this question? Creating and displaying an elements in a priority queue. Add elements to the queue in their natural order, that is, task with small numbers have higher priority. Okay. See, natural order meaning smaller numbers have higher priority. That's what they're telling. Okay, display all the tasks in the order they would be executed. Lowest number first. See, both the hints we've given. If you by default create a priority queue, it will be a minimum queue. by default, the minimum value will be stored as the first or the top element in your queue. Okay, so let's do it. Can you tell me now at least what to do? Priority queue, and they're storing numbers, is it? So can I say integer? Can I name it PQ? Okay, we've created our queue. How do we read tasks? Read the number of tasks. Say maybe we have int n equal to sc dot next int. Okay, Isha, perfect. If you can do this, go back there and try out that question. Now I need to add tasks to my queue. How do I add task? Huh? PQ dot add, is it? Maybe say int I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, PQ dot add whatever user is entering. What is user entering? Scan dot next int. This is all I have to do. Printing part has already been taken care of. Let's run this. Observe the test case firstly. See, user is giving 5 elements, is giving 10, 20, and 15, and 5, and 30. Is this sorted? Whatever user is giving the values, right? Is it sorted? It is not sorted. But if you observe our output, don't you think this is sorted? Yes? No? Yes, right? So what happens when you add elements to the queue? By default, it will sort itself during the addition part only. Whenever you're adding the elements inside the queue, it automatically sorts itself in such a way that this will be the natural order or by default order. Default order is when you're polling the element, the smallest element is coming first. Correct? Smallest is 5. Next smallest will be 10, 15, 20, and so on, 30. So what are you observing here? By default, when you create a queue, okay, it will be a minimum queue. When you add elements to it, it will be sorted in such a way that it is in ascending order, or the minimum element will be at the top. Basically, if you poll, the minimum element will come out first. This is the order. Now tell me, before going to the next problem here, if I need to achieve the opposite, if I need to print the elements in the reverse order or store the elements in a reverse priority, how can I do it? Has sir thought this firstly? Yes. So can you please tell me how? Little loud. I have hearing problem, right? I can't hear. Online students, how can I store the elements? Perfect. Likita is telling. I think you guys also have told this. Reverse order. Where do I need to mention this reverse order? Here is it. Okay, I've mentioned it here. Let's run the program. See what the answer will be. Dun, dun, dun. Don't you think the order is reverse now? See, this is one way of doing it by saying collections dot reverse order. We have other ways as well. Comparator dot reverse order, is it? Who Anjali is saying? Yes, let's try this as well. Let's run it. Yes, comparator dot reverse order will also work. So this is the first thing that you had to know in order to solve that particular problem of the priority queue. See, I will give you a couple of hints now. What you have to do. Going back to that particular task, say maybe if I open that tab here, open a new tab here, go back to that particular problem statement. I'll keep it side by side. So we were in array deck. Where is array deck? Here, right? Continue. We were here. Again, please make sure you change all the comments. So in this particular problem here, the first task here was 1 second. Let me share this with you. This should have been the actual boilerplate. Please take this. So what we've done here, we've understood how to create a priority queue in both the orders. One is the minimum order or your minimum priority queue. The other one is the maximum priority queue. Correct? So coming back to this particular problem statement, let's do it part by part. Firstly, we have to create a priority queue, but with reverse order. So let's come back and do it on the reverse order. But one extra condition we have here, if you observe, we can take this, we can put it here, change it to task, correct? That is the class. Do you think this will be sufficient to solve this problem? Is this reverse order correct? Have we defined any specific reverse order? Here they're telling the application needs to manage tasks with different priorities. Higher priority task should be completed first. Yes, this part reverse order will do it. But don't you think and task with same priority should be handled based on their order of arrival? You need to handle this as well. To handle this will not be sufficient if you ask me. There is one concept called comparators, comparable. I think Puneet sir would have completed this. You need to define your own comparator or your comparable for your task class, correct? Make sure you use that here to satisfy this particular condition of your ordering. If you can crack this, then I think the rest of the code will be a piece of cakewalk. It will be very, very easy. Please spend some time, think on this, how you have to write your comparator such that this condition will be satisfied. Spend some time. I've given you the hint. Online students, you can try it out. If you guys are still not able to do it, we'll go back. We'll solve a couple of more priority queue problems and then come back again. This is how we will do it. See, there is one reason that we have given these methods. You need to make sure you have to use these methods in the comparator. Okay, Isha. Isha is completed it. Okay, let me see your code, Isha. What have you done here? You have your priority queue. You've used lambda expressions. Perfect. Okay, this is another way of doing it. You've told integer dot compare priority. Okay, perfect, Isha. Amazing. Only one student is able to do it. Isha. Isha has done it. Others, online students, all sleeping, is it? All easy questions, nicely you'll send output. If one little medium to hard difficulty level question comes, all of you are stuck. I'm very disappointed. I had full expectations on all these other students, Anjali, Likita, Gunjana, Rohit, Fatafat, Pragati. You guys were sending answers to all the easy questions. What happened? Little hard, challenging question comes. Concepts are already explained. You guys already know the concept. You just have to apply the concept here, convert it into code, and get the solution. I've given you hints. See, the whole logic is in the way you design your comparator or write the logic for the comparator part. If you are able to do that, the rest of the code is just add values and then poll the values and then just make sure you add some fancy printing lines. Nothing else is there in the code. Spend some time on this. So here, I think one student had asked the solutions, right? I'll share the solution with you. First and the second problem. Chitradeep, right? Okay. This is the solution for the first problem. Second one. I've shared both of them. Please let me know if you've received it. Acknowledge. Isha, you did not share the test cases. Are all the test cases working fine? You can just say yes or no. That's fine. Super. Cool. See, there are multiple ways of doing it. I think based on how much you already know, how much syllabus has been completed in the class, at least minimum two ways you know how to do it. You can either come back here, write your custom comparator, okay, use that here. That is also fine. If you want to use your lambda expressions, that is also fine. See, there are many ways. You guys know both the ways. See, we've given one hint also here. You have to use the comparator. Online students, others, what happened? All of you are stuck, is it? See, do one thing. If you're stuck, go back to your Eclipse where you would have written the code for your comparator, correct? Analyze it, go through that code, and then come back here and try to implement the same. You will be able to crack it. This is the other hint I'm giving. If you have already written code for your comparator, for your maybe student class, employee class, person class, go back to your Eclipse, see that particular code, and then come back here. Which question, which module, sir? Jashwant, we are doing array deck only. Question number task queue manager 2. This is the question we have to complete. This is not on array deck. This is on priority queue. But to complete this question, you have dependency on comparator. You need to make sure you design this priority queue in such a way that it follows this ordering, correct? I showed you the example of your minimum queue and your maximum queue here. How to get it in a reverse order. By naturally, it is minimum order. What changes do you need to do for this priority queue of your task so that the higher priority comes first? And also, if in case tasks with same priority are there, you need to make sure you handle it based on their arrival. This is the other thing. So you can ignore this part. If tasks with same priority, you need to handle it based on the order of arrival. This part you ignore. First, try to only get the upper half. That is, manage different priorities. Higher priority tasks should be completed first. Try to come up with the logic only for this much based on priority. See, where is the task priority being stored? It is an integer. This is the variable. How can you get this value? By doing get priority. All these things are there in front of you. I'll give you some more time and then we'll see the solution. So online students, I've pasted the chat. I've pasted the solution in the chat. You can try it out. Please try this out. Complete it. Once you've done, we can wind up. If you guys have any doubts, please ask. If you don't have any doubts, you are free to leave. But make sure before you attend the next class, complete the assignment on the iterator. Okay. One doubt I have. Who is this? Okay, Jashwant sir, could you elaborate the assignment one more time? See, the assignment is on iterator. Iterator is a class in Java used to traverse through your collections. Okay. I want you to do your research on it. Try to implement it on your collections. What is the difference between add and offer in queues? Unni Krishnan is asking this doubt. Tomorrow also program. No, 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 no. Tomorrow Puneet sir will be coming. Puneet sir will be taking the class. I think he'll continue where he left off. I think he was doing JDBC, is it? So tomorrow Puneet sir will be coming back. So make sure you don't miss it. All of you please come back. Offline, tell your friends. Tomorrow I'll not be taking the class. Puneet sir only is coming. Online students as well. Please attend. So yeah, coming back to Unni Krishnan's doubt. What is the difference between add and offer? Correct? In queues. See, both are used to insert elements to your queue, correct? But the way they handle the failure case is different. Okay. So basically, let me actually give you one table. Okay. So there are different behaviors. So this is how it will react. 1 second. Let me give you an image of this. Only Krishnan, I think there are multiple behaviors. That is the reason I've given you the table. Please go through it. If you still have any doubts, you can ask. So guys, if you've taken the code, let's end the class. I'll be ending the class if you have no more doubts. Please let me know if you have any doubts. Online students, no doubts, is it? I'll be ending the meeting. Shows cannot find symbol. Okay, Chitradeep, please share your screen. Others can drop off if you don't have doubts.